Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here at Trumful Reads, and in this video we're going to be doing a quick TBR for the month of April. And the month of April also happens to be a full month-long readathon. You guys probably know which one I'm talking about, and it's the Magical Readathon hosted by Book Roast. She has a great channel. She put in a ton of effort into this Harry Potter themed O.W.L.s Readathon. Definitely go check out like the little content packets and stuff she's made for the different like careers and everything for wizarding stuff. I just think it's really cool, and it's a readathon that takes place over the entire month of April, and there's 12 prompts, one for each class that you might take at Hogwarts, for example. So yeah, it's just a really cool thing to readathon, and she's done. She did it last year. I missed the O.W.L.s for whatever reason, but I did participate in the newts and everything later on in the year. But like I said, it's a really cool readathon. I encourage you guys to go check that out if you haven't already. And the O.W.L.s are, or what they stand for, the ordinary wizarding levels, if I remember correctly. This is gonna be embarrassing if I didn't, but I think that's what it stands for. And basically, I'm going for the careers Mind Medic, because that's fairly close to the job that I have, I guess, for like everything that's there, and then maybe a Magi Zoologist kind of on top, because there's only like one additional class to do that career as well. But essentially, this is also going to be, like I said, my April TBR, because it's a month-long readathon. So I got 12 books here, one for each prompt. I'm not quite sure if I can get them all, but I think I'll be able to at least get close. So let's just get started. In the first, to pass the readathon, there's the different grades at Hogwarts. I had to write it down. See, if you pass 2 classes, and passing a class in the O.W.L.s is just finishing the prompt for that class. Passing 2 of them will give you an acceptable grade. 6 is exceeded expectations, and 9 or more is outstanding. So let's just get started. We're going to first start with Ancient Runes, and the prompt for Ancient Runes is a retelling, and I'm going with T.H. White's the first book in the Once and Future King, which is The Sword in the Stone. And this is obviously a King Arthur retelling. I've never really read any sort of Arthurian much of anything, so it'll definitely be interesting. You guys have probably seen my friend Tim on some of my other videos and stuff. He's like super into Arthurian everything, basically, and he's the one that gave me this omnibus edition of T.H. White's Once and Future King. So yeah, it's one of the only retellings that I still have left that I haven't read yet, and that's why I'm going with The Sword in the Stone. Alright, next class is Arithmancy, and the prompt is to read a book written by more than one author. I'm going with Life in a Medieval Village by Joseph and Francis Yees, and this is a husband and wife team that primarily do medieval history. I've read Life in a Medieval City, Life in a Medieval City, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just really great social history. And there's also Life in a Medieval Castle, I believe. Yes, Life in a Medieval Castle. I don't know, I had to check to see. They also have several other books, and they have a few books also written just kind of independently, rather than together. But I'd say 3/4 of their books are kind of written as a husband and wife team, which I think is really cool. And overall, it's just a really great. They do really good social history. Like in Life in Medieval City, you learn everything that you possibly might want to know about it. And I assume this is going to be basically the same thing, just for the more rural village aspect of things in kind of the high Middle Ages. So that's what I'm going with, Life in a Medieval Village. Alright, next up is Astronomy, and the prompt is to read a book with star somewhere in the title or the series title. And I looked on Goodreads, I typed in star. I only have one book that actually has like star in the title, and it's The Name of the Stars by Pete Fromm. Except I've already read it, so I was like, yeah, what am I going to do? Wasn't quite sure for a little while, but after seeing a couple other people's TBRs, I'm going to go with Neil Gaiman's Stardust. I really enjoy Neil Gaiman. I think I've read 2 of his works so far, Anansi Boys and Norse Mythology. But yeah, I guess Stardust is kind of like a fantasy story that he wrote quite a while back, but it's highly regarded, so that's why I'm going with Neil Gaiman's Stardust. Alright, next up is Care Magical Creatures, and the prompt is to read a book with a land animal on the cover. And I'm going with this audiobook that I was sent for free to review and everything, for an honest review still, even though it's like an audiobook. At first I was like, I don't really take fantasy books, but they said, no, we can give you an audiobook if you want, because I said that's kind of how I primarily listen to, or kind of consume fantasy, I guess. So yeah, I was like, that's kind of weird. I've never gotten an audiobook request before, so I'm going with Radioactive Evolution, and it is by Richard Hummel. And I don't know too much about it. From what I understand, I think it's like loosely lit RPG, but not like hardcore lit RPG. Not that I've read any lit RPG anything anyway, so I'm not really sure what I'm getting into. All I know is it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic world where something like after like kind of nuclear fallout or something. Basically, all the rich people live in these like floating cities in the skies or something, and everyone else kind of has to scramble down below and just like in like a post-apocalyptic mutant Earth, basically, in the future. However, there's like radioactive monsters, but there's also like mythical monsters as well, like dragons and stuff. So, I'm not sure what I'm getting into with it, but yeah, definitely give this one a try. And there is like a mutant rat or something like on the edge of the cover right there. So that's why I'm going with Radioactive Evolution. Alright, next up is Charms, and the prompt is age line read an adult work. This one I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna read yet. Almost everything that I read is an adult work already. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure. But let's see. If I had to pick, I wrote down Barry Strauss's 10 Caesars, and this is a NetGalley book that I requested, and I got approved for it. And I've read a couple Barry Strauss's works before. Really enjoyed The Death of Caesar, and wasn't super impressed with the Trojan War, but I want to give him another shot. And when I saw it, NetGalley, I was like, this is like a history author that I actually know of. That's pretty cool. So that's what I'm going with, probably 10 Caesars. Alright, next up is Defense Against the Dark Arts, and the prompt is Reducto, and it's a book that the title starts with R. And I'm going with alliteration here with R. Ruthless River, Love and Survival by Raft on the Amazon's Relentless Madre de Dios. And this is by Holly Fitzgerald. And what this book is about is the Fitzgeralds. This is a memoir. Their honeymoon was like kind of going around the world doing cool adventure stuff and everything. But I guess after like some sort of plane crash or something, they had to basically escape on a raft on like this tributary of the Amazon River. And that's pretty scary, being kind of lost in the middle of who knows where, in the Amazon basin, with I assume not too many supplies and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty crazy. But I guess they somehow made it out, and I don't know, it just sounded like a really cool adventure story. I've been trying to read a lot of kind of like, either like adventure or exploration type books, I guess. And this definitely fit the bill for that sort of theme that I've been kind of really enjoying lately. So this one I'm going with Ruthless River. Alright, next up is Divination, which is to read a book set in the future. And I'm going with like one of the only sci-fi, like pretty much the only sci-fi series that I like. I'm going with the third book in the Horus Heresy series, which is Warhammer 30k. And this one is Ben Counter's Galaxy in Flames. And the subtitle is The Heresy Revealed. And this is like the last book in like the first 3-book trilogy arc thing kind of going on. This definitely takes place in the future, since like I said, it's Warhammer 30k, so it's like the 31st millennium. And essentially, this is the Imperium of Man has expanded throughout the galaxy, kind of dominating other civilizations and stuff. However, a civil war essentially breaks out between the 20 different legions of the Imperium, and this is like pretty much where it hits the fan, I guess, basically. Well, we'll just leave it at that. So that's why I'm going with Galaxy in Flames. Alright, let's see. We got next up is Herbology, which is to read a book with a plant on the cover. And I'm going with another NetGalley book to read on my Kindle here. And this is Plant, Lore, and Legend. And this is by, I wrote down, Ruth Binney. And basically when I just saw it, I was like, I just like reading about the life sciences, especially. And I was like, I only read a couple books on plants last year. I think like 3 or 4. Kind of want to increase that a little bit, maybe. So I just kind of went with Plant, Lore and Legend, just because I think it's going to be kind of a cool like social history of plants, and not necessarily like a science book, but kind of like, I don't know, I assume it's going to deal a lot with like kind of their kind of like uses and folk medicine, and kind of like their etymology and kind of like how they got their names and stuff, which is always kind of like interesting, especially with the natural world. So that's what I'm going with, plant, lore, and legend. All right, next up is History of Magic, which is to read something published at least 10 years ago. And actually, with this one, I'm going with a great course. I've been trying to read or listen to a great course every month. I didn't get to one last year. I did in January and February. And for one that was released at least 10 years ago, I'm going with The Ethics of Aristotle. And I'm not actually, I can't remember, before I look at the picture, I wrote it down. I'm not actually sure if that's what it's called. I can't remember, because they have another one on Aristotle that's called something like a little bit different. But this is primarily on just the Nicomachean Ethics. And the professor is Joseph Katursky, something like that. And like I said, the reason I'm going to listen to this course in particular is I can't remember if it was February or March. I read, I did a prompt, or a book tag, and I was talking about the Nicomachean Ethics and how I really enjoy reading about Aristotle and stuff, and his works. And I was like, I might as well do a course now that is like kind of like kept like going through my mind and everything. So I was like, yeah, maybe I want to try and understand the Nicomachean Ethics better than I have before. So that's why I'm going with this particular great course. Alright, so the next class is Muggle Studies, which is to read a contemporary work. And I don't really have contemporary works, I guess, to be honest. I am not exactly sure. But I'm going with The Book of Mistakes, 9 Secrets to Creating a Successful Future by Skip Pritchard. I was sent this book for an honest review as well. But it's essentially like a modern day allegory. It's not like just a regular like self-help book type thing, which I don't really read self-help books either. But this one, I guess, deals with sort of a manuscript that's been like passed down to like the modern times or something. And like the whole book is essentially just this big allegory, like fictional tale with a modern day guy named David kind of going through his life and like kind of the problems he has and the things he's gonna like try and change and how he goes about changing it and stuff. So it's not like your typical self-help book, I guess, if that makes sense. And since it, like I said, takes place in the modern age, I figured that's contemporary, right? So yeah, but it's got kind of like an ancient spin on it as well. So I thought that was kind of just a cool idea. So that's what I'm going with, Skip Pritchard's The Book of Mistakes for a contemporary. Next up is Potions, which is the next ingredient, which is a sequel. So I'm going with Brandon Sanderson's Words of Radiance, the sequel to A Way of Kings back here. And I will say, I did start this in March, but I still got many hundreds of pages to go. So I'm definitely counting it. Like, it's just so much. I can't remember. I think this one's almost 1,100 pages. I'm just like, why? Why am I such a glutton for punishment? I will say I have enjoyed it a little bit better so far than Way of Kings. Not that bar was very high for me personally, even though I know most people just really love Sanderson and Stormlight Archive and everything. So I guess that is a good thing that I definitely enjoy it more so far. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see if it actually picks up and kind of turns the series around for me. Just so I can not dread going to Oathbringer afterwards at Radiance. But yeah, just definitely looking forward to getting this one checked off the list, basically. And lastly, we have Transfiguration, which is to read a book with sprayed or gilt edges or red on the cover. And actually, I have like most of my Follow Society books, except these ones. Let's see, this one has like orange edges. Like, they're really cool. Like, they all, like, match for the most part. This one has, like, navy blue, and the Vikings has red, and actually these ones don't, and most of these ones do. Like, that one has brown, that one has blue, and everything. But anyways, then I have I think I have, like, one or two gilt ones. I think the gold spray or whatever over there. However, I'm going to be doing the red on the cover book, or red on the cover prompt for this one. And actually, I'm going with another history book, but it's kind of like a comedic history book, and it's The Worst Jobs in History, 2,000 Years of Miserable Employment by Tony Robinson. If you guys recognize him, he was I think he was a pretty famous British actor from the, not Monty Python, it was Blackadder or something like that. I mean, I've never watched it, but I've read about Tony Robinson from somewhere. But anyways, so what this book is about is just like just a really light popular history book on like the worst jobs that like have ever been, especially around England, throughout like from like ancient times to kind of like the Roman occupation period, and then the Middle Ages, and then kind of like, you know, going through the Elizabethan and Stuart and Victorian ages, all that stuff. And it's basically just, you know, the worst jobs people could have possibly had. So it just sounds like a fun read. I love comedic nonfiction. I just think comedy nonfiction is just very useful in a way to make nonfiction definitely more approachable in some circumstances. Definitely highly recommend kind of going down that route if you want to get into nonfiction, but you're a little intimidated by it. So yeah, that's why I'm going with Tony Robinson's The Worst Jobs in History, to see if I can have a good laugh or two while learning about some pretty much terrible jobs throughout history. So there you guys have it. Those are the 12 books I'm going to try and read for the O.W.L.s Readathon. Like I said, definitely go check out Book Roast's original video. She put in a ton of hard work for this. Definitely very impressed with it. And like I said, for the Mind Medic career, the only ones I think that you need like 8 of them, if I believe. The only ones I don't need are astronomy, history of magic, divination. Everything else I have to like try and do. Even though that's gonna be pretty difficult, I think, for the most part. And then care magical creatures I have to add if I want. Oh, and care magical creatures isn't for Mind Medic, but it's the only additional one I would need to add, like Magi Zoologist to it. Like I said, I'm going to try and read all 12 prompts, and how it works is the newts will be coming up in a month later in the year, and whatever classes you pass here, you're allowed to take the further exams in whatever month the newts happen to take place in, and those are generally harder because to get higher grades, you have to read more than one book for each class. So I like to keep my options open, I guess. So that's what I'm going to try and read all 12. My goal is to get at least 10 out of the 12 and just go from there, see what happens. So yeah, tell me if you guys are participating in the O.W.L.s Readathon. I know it's like super late, especially by the time I'm already like a day or two late, and then by the time I upload it and edit it and everything, it's going to be like really late. But yeah, if you're participating in the Readathon, leave a link down below. Be glad to go check out your videos and see what you guys are reading in the month of April. And always remember, whatever you do end up reading, read victoriously.